What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Back Road in Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR show. We got a full house again tonight. Myself, Elliot Hicks, along with Seth Woolcock, and who just disappeared, and Rod Villagomez. And our guest tonight is Mark Harris from Skybox NASCAR. Thanks for joining us, Mark. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited. This is actually my first live stream, so that's kind of cool. I do Derek's show on Wednesday night, the NASCAR betting preview show, and there's no video, but this is cool. This will be my first experience. So if you catch me not looking at the camera, or I'm looking at my notes, and this is my first time, but super excited. Thanks for having me on, and I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, no worries, man. We're dealing with the beauty of live. I would say live television, but live web streaming, and still not quite sure where Seth is. Hopefully, we get him back soon here, but we'll keep on rolling. Rod, how have you been the last couple of weeks?
Oh, I've been so crazy. I had my mic muted. I'm great. Live television, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I've been great, man. This has been a blast. The last couple of weeks have been crazy. I missed the show a couple of weeks ago, but I'm glad to be back on again because we have some amazing racing to talk about and just some fantastically entertaining races. So I'm ready to do this.
No doubt about it. Seth, we stalled just long enough to get you back here. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good now, man. Never had that happen before. As soon as we went live there, didn't hear any audio. Video started freezing up, but I'm ready to go, man. It has been an absolute busy couple weeks here at IBT Media. We just got back from the Fantasy Football Expo over the weekend out there in Canton, Ohio, and I've been doing everything I can to keep up with this wild world of racing. Rod, you have been absolutely on fire these last couple of weeks, man. You hit a couple of these Kevin Harvick outrights, if I'm correct on that.
Well, we did hit the one, and that was a couple of weeks ago when Cody basically said, "Nah, you got to put him on your card if you're going to say it." So I did put him on my card. But I've been a Harvick sympathizer all season long. I was just kind of waiting for him to pick his spot, to remember how to drive, and he did. And boy, did he ever! Because then he followed that up with another fantastic performance. I'm going to misuse that word all over the place today. Just fantastic. I don't know what. I'm in a good mood.
No, I understand.
That's just fantastic, Rod. All right, well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get and take a look in the rear view. Well, we'll start by taking a look back to the Michigan race where Kevin Harvick finally made it back to victory lane after a winless streak dating back nearly 2 years. We'll go around the table here first. Seth, what'd you think of the race? How'd your bets go? Tell us a little bit about what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fun race. I mean, I kind of talked about going into Michigan. Michigan's a slept-on track. I've always enjoyed it. From a betting and DFS point of view, it was really fun, too. Bubba Wallace kind of comes out of nowhere once again. Ty Gibbs races hard. Eric Jones, top 10 for him. So overall, I really liked what Michigan brought us from a fan perspective. From a gambling perspective, we weren't too hot on the week. However, I missed the Larson outright. I backfired on Logano over Harvick. So I was kind of all over the place on this one. Had a couple good DFS lineups, all the ones that I did not play Ross Chastain in, but really bumpy week there in Michigan as far as a betting perspective.
Yeah, we actually, Michigan was good to us, especially with the Kevin Harvick. We were all over all kinds of things, right? And Kevin Harvick winning was just the icing on the cake because we were all over Ford. We were all over the fact that this was their backyard and Ford's going to perform well. And to have a Ford come out and win, that just basically sealed the deal. From a racing standpoint, man, there was a lot going on. And I feel like a broken record, but we talk about betting and how much DFS and betting and NASCAR fantasy play into how you watch the race. Yeah, you can pay attention to what's going on in the front. But, boy, if you've got action in the middle of the pack, it makes every part of that track interesting to you. And while the cameras are up on the leaders, you're thinking to yourself, man, that's fine. Leave them alone. I want to see what's going on in 13th and 14th because I got two drivers going head-to-head here that I want to see how this battle's shaping up. So Michigan gave us a lot of that too, and that was what made it more exciting to us.
Yeah, I thought that Michigan was a great race. I think it is a slept-on track, like Seth said. I think this next-gen car was great. I thought that battle between Suarez, Chastain, Hamlin and Bell, I think it was, or maybe it was Larson and Bell. I thought that was some of the best racing that we had seen all year. We had, faster cars, third and fourth, and Chastain was and Suarez was controlling it. But Rod, like you said, it's fun to have bets in the middle of the pack. Like I'm looking at my picks. I had Gragson versus Burton, both a lap down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had, Ricky Stenhouse versus Austin Hill, guys late teens, early 20s. So overall, I got mopped at Michigan. I got absolutely clobbered. I had Almirola versus Keselowski, caught up in the wreck. I also had Logano over Harvick, which look at me now.
Yeah.
And the last bet that I had that I'm just still kicking myself, I took Ford first on race day, home race. I had Ford to win at plus 400, and at the last second, I switched it to Toyota because of their practice and qualifying speeds, and I am still kicking myself. So Michigan was tough for me.
Well, you must have missed my analysis from the last show where I was all in on Ford for Michigan, which I had completely forgotten about until you said something. So glad to know I was right on that one.
Yeah.
Elliot, I was just about to point that out. We came on the show all kind of split up in manufacturers. Our guest was hot on Toyota. I was riding Chevy into the ground. That race just based on previous performances, and it didn't pay out so well. And Kevin Harvick, man, I mean, hats off to him. Childress, everyone on that squad, they absolutely got it done when they had to most. And as soon as he took the lead there with, what was it, 50 or maybe 30 laps to go, you knew he wasn't giving it back at all. And it was just, Rod, finally, it all came to fruition for you. You've been riding it all year, man.
I was pumping that. I was trying to get everybody on board. I was like, look, you're sleeping on Harvick. It's not necessarily all that bad, guys. He's going to win eventually. He's going to figure this out. I got a lot of crap for it, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch him cross that finish line. And then, just to watch him take his daughter around, and yeah, it was just a feel good moment all the way around. And it definitely felt good at 25-1 to cash that ticket.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, the Harvick win at Michigan was fun. I don't know how many of us would have had him winning again at Richmond the week after. This is it's not quite the playoffs yet. It's almost feeling a little Tony Stewart 2011-ish to me, if you guys remember. I don't think he won a single race in the regular season, took 5 out of 10 in the chase, ends up winning the championship by best finish over Carl Edwards. What were your thoughts on Richmond, and do you think Harvick might be this dominant force here as we move into the playoffs in a few weeks?
Well, I think, starting in Richmond, I was hot on Ross Chastain. That's where I went wrong. Once again, Ross kind of burned me. He was the only outright I felt confident in at that price tag. And he looked great. First stage, Ross looked dominant. Blaney kind of showed up there in stage 2. And at the end, it was really fun, man. I mean, Chris Bell showed up. We saw a little more out of Chris Buescher than we've seen in the last couple of races. So great racing overall. And Harvick just gets it done, man. I mean, he's able to pass these guys right at the right time and then just kind of dominate the race from there. Close, still the closer, but, a little bit more outside of the last couple laps like he was a few years ago.
Yeah, in a race where the lead guy, Joey Logano, leads 222 laps, you would say to yourself, well, this was probably a boring race. Well, it was anything but that. You had strategies playing out. You had, is tire wear going to happen? Like, are you going to see blown tires? You started to think to yourself, this is a great race shaping up, especially when Kevin Harvick took the lead. And you were thinking, wow, Kevin Harvick can hang on for a back-to-back win. This is fun. But, all the stuff happening up and down the race, too, with Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain and all of the action that just started to surround these top cars, trying to fight back through. And the fact that most of them were a lap down by the end of the race, it still produced great racing, even though the leaders basically led almost all the laps in the entire race, a la Joey Logano, 222 laps. You'd say to yourself, yeah, well, this race stunk, but it didn't, because the guy that led that many laps, he finished in 6th. So that tells you right then and there, it was a good race.
Yeah, I thought it was a great race. And I listened to Sirius XM NASCAR radio, and love him or hate him, Dave Moody. I like him. I like listening to him. But he said it best. He said Richmond was a thinking man's race. It was a NASCAR fan that had to think. You couldn't just wake up from your nap and know what was going on. I think that's great racing. Not what I expected. I expected mayhem. I thought bumpers were going to be used. I thought it was going to be a crap show. I thought it was going to be a late caution. It wasn't, obviously, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have something funny. I got mopped again at Richmond. That's not the funny thing. But I was on Larson. I was on Chastain. I was on Byron for a flyer. I was on Chastain at plus 400, top 3. I really liked that bet. The only positive I had was Todd Gilliland versus Corey LaJoie.
Let's go, baby.
But going back to Harvick, I got to toot my own horn here for a second. So before the season started, I thought that the veterans were really going to get a hold of this car fairly quickly. I thought they were going to have a leg up. I was clearly wrong. But my futures bets were Truex, Harvick, and Logano. And Harvick, I had also a over 1.5 wins at minus 140. And going right before Michigan, I would have told you that you're crazy. I'm like, that's lost money. There's no shot. And then he goes out and wins 2 in a row. And I cash my bet. And I'm like, that is absurd. I didn't hit a 25 to 1 or a 20 to 1, but I'll take the over 1.5 wins on Harvick, man.
Congrats on that, man. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, neither did I.
Not at all.
The only successful thing I will say about Richmond, I was wrong about this racetrack. Perhaps we came into the race, and Elliot, I kind of went on a little rant that why is Richmond on the schedule twice a year? And they bounced back. They struck back here this weekend. It was a very exciting race. Elliot, you and I were kind of as a whole on Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick, just based off the earlier Richmond race, and it really paid off. I went with a top 5 on Kevin Harvick, cashed that one out. Then a top 10 on Hamlin as well and cashed that one out. Outside of that, the DFS lineups weren't too pretty. I didn't have a lot of guys outside of them inside that top 5. But man, what a fun couple races here, and hats off to Kevin Harvick, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One guy that I think, Mark, you brought him up was Martin Truex Jr. I don't know if we have him individually brought up later in the show, but I really thought this was going to be a race where he was going to come out, run well, and that car just was not good all day. He's 4th in the regular season points, not in the playoffs right now. I don't know that I see him winning. You guys have any thoughts on Truex?
It's going to come down to him and Blaney. What is it, a 29-point difference or something right now? Coming
right, there's still the opportunity for 2 more winners too, so both of them could end up out without a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think Blaney's is a little more predictable these next couple races. Here at Watkins Glen, he's going to be obviously staying out towards the end of those stages. We've seen a lot of on these road courses people early pitting. I expect Blaney is staying out in these stages, trying to get as many stage points as he can to stay in front of Truex here. And I expect Truex to have probably a similar strategy as well. So if you're in some type of fantasy NASCAR league that does award some type of points for stage bonuses, I think Truex, you kind of got to keep riding them with this. But I mean, just an overall disappointing season for Truex, and Joe Gibbs as a whole lately just has not looked very good outside of, run from Chris Bell here or there.
Yeah, Truex, Cody likes to joke that he's a retired driver just kind of tooling around right now. And I was on Phil's shows earlier, and I said something about Truex, the fact that Harvick, if you would have told me that Harvick was going to win this season, I would have said absolutely. Now, as time is running out with Truex, I don't think that opportunity is there like it was with Harvick, because Harvick has been good at every single track that we've ever raced at this season, right? It was just going to take some time for him to get there. Truex's finishes have not necessarily been as steady as Harvick's if you look back at it. Harvick was inching that way. Harvick was taking roads, getting there, right? Truex has not done that this season. So for him to win a race in the next couple of races, that's tough sledding, to be honest with you, to get in there. Because now we're asking him to win a road race, which, yeah, almost anybody can do. But, there's a lot of road racers out there that have his number. And you're asking him to win a Daytona where who the hell knows what's going to happen to Daytona, right? So it's tough.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, I thought it was, I didn't even know, and shame on me, I didn't know that Truex was 4th in points. That's crazy because like what Rod was talking about, you see a guy like Harvick and Rodney Childers that are there. You can noticeably see that they're running better week after week. It's not like this roller coaster of finishes and results. Now he wrecked at Pocono. He's had some bad luck here and there, had some fast cars, but Truex, it's like he could come out and run 18th, have an 18th place car, and then the next week could have a top 5 car. And that's definitely not a recipe for a championship season. But I can't believe this is coming out of my mouth, considering what we've seen the last 2 weeks. But I can't believe that I'm actually thinking about throwing more money on Harvick to win the championship, because Rod, you have a very valid point. Like, you get these veterans, these very smart guys. You get a guy like Kevin Harvick who wins everything, runs great on all sorts of different tracks. And when you get them clicking like that, watch out. Watch out.
Absolutely. And guys, before we jump in and preview these next couple of races, I'm seeing some new faces in the chat tonight. We got Steven, we got Mark, we got Derek is always here. We have our friend cooking at the lake house. We appreciate everyone's support here at the Back Road, at In Between Media. If you guys are new and you like fantasy NASCAR betting content, fantasy football, lifestyle content, or fantasy golf, please consider subscribing to our channel. It really is the easiest way to support us here at IBT Media. You're going to have more of Elliot, Rod, and I coming the rest of the playoffs, rest of the NASCAR season. Elliot, but we got 2 more races ahead of that, man.
We sure do. And if you enjoy the NASCAR content here on In Between Media on weeks where we don't do a show, so it'll be next, what does it come out? Wednesdays.
Yes.
The Through the Field column that I write, going through some of the fantasy picks and giving a little bit of a nice story with the picks. So you can read that as well when we're not doing a show. But in any case, let's get back to it with the Horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Feels like we've had a lot of rain delays lately, doesn't it? Hopefully that doesn't continue on. So we're starting to get to the fun part of the season. You know, there's only 2 more races left, and then we're into the playoffs. We're going to start with Watkins Glen here, 2.45 mile, 7-turn road course. I like to think of this as one of the legacy road courses. You know, for all those years with all ovals, Sonoma, and Watkins Glen. Now that we have a bunch, you know, it's a little different, but the Glen's been around a while. And an interesting fact about this race I wanted to mention in case we didn't know, there are drivers from 7 different countries that are going to be participating. You got all the Americans, of course, Suarez from Mexico, and then some, I guess, ringers we'll call them, from Finland, Germany, Russia, and England. So that's going to be a lot of fun, you know, NASCAR more on the world stage. Some trends the last few races. Hendrick has won the last 3 here with Larson last year, and then Chase Elliott, the 2 before the pandemic year that we missed. We didn't get to go to this track. Ford has only won 3 times here since 1996, which is really interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And we talked about Joe Gibbs earlier not having such a great season. All 3 of the veteran JGR guys have won here, and Christopher Bell has a win on the road course as well in his career. So this one's going to be really interesting. You got a lot of benefits for all the different manufacturers that I said there. What are some things you guys are paying attention to? Any early leads? What are we looking at for the Glen up there in the Finger Lakes?
Well, I'm just going to come out and say, if you guys haven't been up to the Watkins Glen area, it is a treat. This is a race that, you know, really kind of goes under misunderstood a little bit. And I think it is really one of those legacy road courses, Elliot's saying. So if you guys haven't been up to the Glen yet, highly recommend. There's a lot to do in that area. Seneca Lake, all that going up there. Beautiful, beautiful course. I just want to start out by saying, I think, guys, we have to recognize where we are. This is a different era of road course racing in NASCAR. For years and years, it seemed like, okay, you're going to hammer down AJ Allmendinger. You're going to hammer down Chase Elliott. And when Kyle Larson was hot on his run last year, you're going to hammer him down. That's not the case this year, guys. We have 3 first-time winners on 4 road courses this season. Tyler Reddick, of course, double dipping and road course victories. So I think that's something we got to be aware of. They're also all Chevrolets. So Chevys obviously have been successful turning left, turning right, the whole 9 yards this year. So I think that's a very interesting thing to point out. And let's just be honest about how the road courses have gone the last couple of weeks. It's kind of been, you know, a little bit of chaos out there. A lot of first turns that have not gone well. And Watkins Glen unfortunately plays into that with that fast front stretch into that tough right-hand turn. So I'm expecting chaos. As much as we're about to lay out some really good bets, I think, here in the next couple segments, some chaos could happen and you know, shit could go down. So just be aware of that, guys.
Yeah, that's the key right there, is that you just never know. And now as the funnel to the playoffs starts to get smaller, drivers' tempers are a lot shorter in this area.
Smaller than it's ever been. This is going to be nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of guys throwing a lot of Hail Marys at this track and putting all of their hopes of actually advancing with a win in this. And we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and Indy is a perfect example of just how you just never know, given even the last 3 or 4 or 5 laps. what's going to happen and who's going to get into who and who's going to bump who and who's going to take who out. So like you're literally not going to know until the very end of this race exactly how it's going to shake out because like you said, Seth, there's been different winners, and now we're introducing Formula One racers into the mix that don't race with these guys every week. So there's guys racing for a championship with guys that are racing that have never been here before or that are taking the track for the first time. How patient are they going to be with these guys? What are we going to see if they're running in the back of the pack? Right? What are we going to see now that we're throwing this wrench into it? So there's a lot of unknowns in this, and it makes for a very, very frustrating betting weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we all four of us know that a late race caution on any track can cause mayhem. A short track and a road course and a super speedway, obviously. But I was saying all last week that I expected Richmond to be this crazy, use the bumper nonsense, coming down to the playoff stretch, and it wasn't. And it's not. I know it's going to be crazy at Daytona. They're not going to be, turning each other. Maybe Ross Chastain will, but Watkins Glen. I'm going to say it again. I think it's going to be crazy. Rod, like you said, there's going to be so many different variables. We got a bunch of rookies, guys that have never done it before. We have playoff spots on the line. We saw how crazy the road courses have been, especially Indy. But when Seth talked about it, you kind of got to be careful on how you bet these road courses. It's one of my favorite things to bet. And I typically, to get into my mind about getting into a road or betting a road course is I try to look for the value before practicing qualifying, kind of the lower risk, high reward bets. Like, for example, Kyle Busch is 25-1. I understand that he's been running like dog shit on road courses. I think Road America was god awful, but 25-1. And Kyle Busch is minus 110 for a top 10. So I went back, historical races. He has raced at Watkins Glen 16 times. He has finished in the top 10, 13 of the 16 races. I thought that was absolute blasphemy. I thought that was crazy.
Wow.
So that would be an example of a bet that I would look at before practicing qualifying, because we all know that Kyle Busch could come out and sit on the pole, qualify top 5, have top 5, top 10 practice speeds, and all of a sudden that 25-1 number goes down to 10-1 or 12-1. And that's kind of my mindset when I'm coming into a road course race. And then when I can see a little bit of practice and a little bit of qualifying, that's when I feel like I find my edge, take the matchups, maybe take a big top 10 number. But yeah, I think it's going to be mayhem. I've lost my butt the last couple of weeks. So I may think about just more of the lower risk, high reward type bets this week.
I completely agree with you, Mark. Kind of looking through these odds, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I think the books really got this one right. And I think there are some very good value plays out there, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But man, I am fired up for Watkins Glen. I think these road courses, especially in DFS, with so many of these cautions going to be coming out, so many guys going to be DNF and that finish or qualify towards that top. There really is some advantages to play some of these underdogs in any type of lineup.
It's going to be real interesting to see some strategies too, because there are, let's say, 12 to 15 teams who are basically banking everything on a win. They can't point their way in. They need to win to get in the playoffs. There could be a few people that are going to say, well, we're not going to take our chances at the absolute shit show that Daytona is going to be. Let's try and bring a damn good road course setup and get here. So that's going to be something to watch. Again, something that could change the odds after practice qualifying. Maybe somebody we're not talking about just nails the setup and is able to contend for a win here. And the nice thing is, if you don't get the mayhem and chaos at Watkins Glen, you're getting into Daytona. We all know about the beast down there in Florida. Anyone can win here. Like I said, so many people are going to be extremely desperate. Most tracks, you can look at trends. With Daytona, I say, you take the notebook of trends and you throw it out. Anything can happen here. Anybody can win. We've seen some absolutely crazy winners here. I don't even know how in the world to go about betting this, but these are always the fun ones, because when you hit on a long shot, which once in a while it happens, can be really, really fun. Mark, let's start with you this time. What are your thoughts about Daytona here?
Yeah, I love Daytona. I'm from about an hour and a half up the road from Daytona. I've been going there every year since I was 5. It's my favorite type of racing. I'm a fan of every race, boring, exciting, chaos, strategy. It doesn't matter. I'm a fan. But I grew up on super speedway racing, so I love it. I was there. You were talking about crazy long shots. I was there when Justin Haley won in the summer. I was not a betting man at that point, so I obviously didn't take him. But when I look at Daytona, obviously now that it's the final race in the regular season, that just adds so much drama and so much chaos and entertainment. But when I go to bet a super speedway and Daytona, Talladega, and I'm going to throw Atlanta in there as well, I rarely ever take matchups. And so I'm looking at the guys from 15-1 to maybe 30-1, 40-1. And like you said, throw the notebook out the window. This is a shot in the dark type thing. You can look at guys like Blaney and Hamlin and Keselowski, guys that really run well. Stenhouse is always in the mix. You take that into consideration, I think, but I think you really got to look at the numbers when you're coming into a super speedway race. But all in all, I'm really looking forward to it. I love Daytona. There's nothing better. I thought the 500 in the next gen car put on great racing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, when you're betting super speedway races and now even when you bet Atlanta, just bet on the guys you want to root for. Because honestly, that's you're gonna hate life if you're betting on guys that you're not trying to root for. You're gonna see them rise and fall about 600 times in the midst of this race. And if you don't like what you're betting on, and if you are really just trying to ride numbers and past history and stuff like that to win, you're going to hate your race. You're going to hate the day, and you're going to just probably stop watching NASCAR and betting altogether. So honestly, just bet for the guys that you want to root for and have some fun with it. And especially if they're long shots, that makes it all the more fun, because then you could sit back and say, yep, if this guy wins, we're eating steak. And so it's, that's the betting strategy for Daytona. Bet who you want to root for.
Yep, I 100% agree. The only success I think we've really had, big time on this show when it comes to these super speedways, sometimes DraftKings will put out those DK specials, and there are some we can take advantage of. We hit that one a couple weeks ago at Atlanta. That was Blaney and Chase Elliott in the top 5 at plus 800. That was a really nice one for us. However, some luck does go into that. We can't discount that at all. But there are a couple guys who are excellent at these types of tracks. Hamlin, Blaney, they're the guys you definitely kind of want to lean a little bit to if you do want to lean a certain way. But this overall is one of those tracks that I will be a little tighter with my units. You just kind of have to be with the amount of variance on this type of track. So that's kind of where Daytona stands for me as well.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely wild for sure. We're going to bring back, if you remember our segment, the tire tiers. We ranked every driver in the field. We've done that a few times throughout the year. We're going to bring it back for the playoffs in the next episode, ranking the playoff drivers and perhaps some of the guys below. But for now, we'll move on and take a more specific look at some of these bets in the parking garage props. All right, so in our doc here, we've got, it looks like the top 8 bets, the favorites for Watkins Glen this week. We got Chase Elliott as the favorite, and then Tyler Reddick at plus 600. Chase is at plus 500. Kyle Larson plus 900. Chastain plus 1,000, along with Cindric. Ryan Blaney is 1,200. So is Suarez, and then Chase Briscoe plus 1,500. What do we think? Did they get it right, Seth?
I think they absolutely did. You look at the 4 Chevys at the top of this list. Chevys have dominated road courses this season, last season, going back. I love all those guys at the top. I think they got this one right. There's really no complaints for me. There's nothing that stands out except Chase Briscoe. I don't know why he's on this list at plus 1,500. I get it. He's had a top 10 at Watkins Glen before. At one point, he was supposed to be some type of road course ringer. But Chase Briscoe, I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But 20th is his average finish position on these types of tracks this year at road courses. So other than that, I think they did a great job.
Oh, come on. You didn't like Chase Briscoe's run last week, too? I mean, he was around the front. He got a bad rap at the end, but, I get it.
I think that's my issue, Rod. That's my issue with the finish. Man, I've been playing too many DK lines with Briscoe the last couple of weeks because he's been such a value play, and it just hasn't worked out.
Burned by Briscoe. You should put that on a bumper sticker. Yeah, I think they got it right, too. I mean, obviously, you have to go with Chase Elliott as a favorite because why not? That's the way it's been. That's the way it'll always be. Books we found this year have just kind of looked at the trends from the past and gone that way And this is exactly a result of that. Not only are they giving you Chase Elliott, but Tyler Reddick, because, hey, guess what? He won a couple of them. Kyle Larson has been dominant. Ross Chastain won one. Austin Cindric won a race. I mean, this is a little predictable as far as what the books are going to give you. So this is why I just said this slate's a little bit icky. It feels a little icky. So if you feel bad betting some of this stuff, don't feel bad, because we just looked at the books and said, yeah, I don't really feel good about a lot of these bets. They priced them right. They found the right way to do it this time.
I think it's correct with an asterisk. I think that a year ago, like this time last year, if you would have looked at the odds board and saw Reddick and Chastain and Cindric, Suarez, Briscoe all up at the top, you'd have been like, what the hell is going on? Is this like an alternate universe? And then, but I think it's warranted. Like you guys were saying, Reddick's won a couple. You got to throw Chase and Kyle Larson up at the front. Ross won one. So I think those are warranted. The part that I don't get is listen to this stretch of drivers that are all 20-1 or worse. Truex, Harvick, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Joey Logano. I think that is absurd. I think, like I said, I think the odds are correct. I just didn't expect to see all those guys at worse than 20-1. So I think there's definitely value here. You've got to think that 4 or 5 of these guys, maybe even 2 or 3 of these guys in that little stretch are going to qualify in the top 5, and those odds are going to plummet. So I think they got it right based on this year. But once again, you can't take all these veterans and put them 20-1 or worse. I think that was a little off.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of deep value there. I see Steven in the comments saying Harvick three-peat ? That might be a little bit of a stretch, but could be a good value bet for sure. Doing it for Dale down there, Steven. Good job with that. All right, so anything specific we're looking at for the Glen here? Anything special matchups you guys are looking at?
I'm staying away from outrights. Do you guys have any outrights that you are confident in? Rod, you've been pretty good at these lately, man. Do you have one for us that you're interested in all?
I have to pick one for the show, and I'm going to save that one because I actually also like Harvick, maybe necessarily at 25. That's great value. Great value for a guy that is red hot. Does he have it at road courses? Not necessarily, but man, Kevin Harvick, I've said it before, I'll say it again. He's a dangerous man at this point, and this 4 team is feeling it. So at 25-1, just like my man Mark said, you got to throw it out there, man. This is something that the books kind of made a mistake on with these guys being so low. So if I'm going to bet an outright that's outside of the one that I'm going to give on my show later on, I'm definitely going to give you Kevin Harvick at 25-1 for that.
I think whenever you see Kyle Busch at 25-1, you have to bet it. Like, I would be shocked if we went back over the last 2 seasons and Kyle Busch on a non-super speedway race was 25-1. Like, I don't have – the only stat I have for you is out of the 16 career races that Kyle Busch has at Watkins Glen, he's finished in the top 10 in 13 of them. So my bet of the week is going to be Kyle Busch outright, 25-1, but I am going to throw a significant amount of coin on Kyle Busch top 10 at even money. I mean, that is just absurd to me. So pre-practice qualifying, Kyle Busch.
Can never go wrong with KFB, that's for sure.
Yeah. What about any top 10s, Mark? Do you have any top 10s or top 5s DraftKings specials that you're kind of looking at right now as well?
Yeah, so I thought DraftKings top 10 was pretty favorable. There's a bunch of guys between like minus 150 and plus 200. Even Kimi Räikkönen's in there. I thought that was absolutely bonkers. But I thought
Trackhouse has been fire this year. Why not?
Yeah, why not, right? Who knows? I thought the DraftKings is playing into the chaos card a little bit. I thought that was pretty good, but it gives us as bettors a chance to take a few different guys. And DraftKings isn't always the best with top 10s. I feel like some of their odds are a little skewed, but I already got AJ Allmendinger in a top 10 at minus 110. I'm seeing him on DraftKings at minus 130. I just mentioned Kyle Busch, top 10 even money, but Christopher Bell, top 5 plus 250. You guys were saying it earlier. This guy, he's won a race. He won Daytona road course. I was going to say he didn't win on a road course, but I mean, that just seems like incredible value. And this all ties into what I was saying earlier about with this much value on the board, I feel like these bets that I'm talking about, you got to get on before practice and qualifying, because if they qualify well, they practice well, there's no sense in taking AJ Allmendinger top 10 minus 200, right? But that Christopher Bell bet, that plus 250 was screaming my name. I think, Seth, you were talking about that, but
yeah,
that was a good one.
I'm glad you got it at plus 250. The best I had it was 230. But I think this is absolutely hammered down on Chris Bell plus top 5 for plus 230 or plus 250, depending on the book. One race at Watkins Glen in his career, he was 7th in that, and he's been strong at Pocono. He was strong at Richmond. Chris Bell is coming alive a little bit, so I love that bet, Mark. I think that is absolutely one of my favorite of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw one in if you guys want. The pole position bet is always a fun bet, and I see Kyle Larson at plus 900 to win the pole. Obviously, we know that he went out and won the pole last week, didn't do much with it, but again, he's primed to at least get into good position to win the pole. And on this road course, on a road course, Kyle Larson has the capability of at least coming out to win the pole. I like plus 900 for this, especially given that Reddick is at plus 5. Elliot's at plus 5, Cindric's at plus 8. I mean, to have Kyle Larson hovering around 10-1 for the pole, I like value in that bet.
That one does look pretty good. A couple others here that I see in the comments. Allmendinger minus 110 over Harvick. I think I like that. Harvick's been hot, but I don't think you can't go wrong with the dinger at the road courses.
So I have a theory. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but I like to fade the previous week's winner. I call it a win hangover fade. Yeah, and I did it with Joey Logano versus Harvick last week. But I think it might be like an actual, like, Harvick can't keep drinking all these Busch Lights and keep it up. So the win hangover fade. I like Dinger. I do like Dinger this week.
Another one I like here is Chris Buescher, guys. Top 10 at minus 110 or top 5 at plus 350. That's probably where I'm going with this one. 2 out of his last 3 races, just in general, have been top 10 performances. 3 top 10s on the 4 road courses so far this season for him. His average finish is 9.8 on these road courses here in 2022. Best finish here is 11th. However, he has finished in the top 20 4 of 6 times. So I think at plus 350, Chris Buescher, he is someone, if I'm guessing and betting on a new winner one of these last 2 races, it's got to be Chris Buescher. Guys looked phenomenal, just can't make it happen. Maybe he can here.
Yeah, I like Chris Buescher here too a lot. Another spicy one, Ty Gibbs? Question mark? Maybe. He got his first win, first Xfinity start at the Daytona road course. Why not? 45 cars run well. Anyone biting?
Well, I'm not necessarily biting on him outright, but I'll tell you this. With that money that came in on Kimi Räikkönen and the odds coming down to 50-1, I'm looking at DraftKings right now, and he has the same odds as Ty Gibbs. If they give us a matchup, Ty Gibbs versus Kimi Räikkönen, I will be all over Ty Gibbs, all over it.
Mm-hmm. It's just tough because a lot of these guys that are coming in, I mentioned you got 7 different countries represented. First, a lot of times they can't quite get good equipment. This Kavat guy, I don't know much about him, but a guy who's raced in F1, not to insult our NASCAR guys, anyone who's driven an F1 can handle a stock car, even though they're different worlds. It's just that equipment's not any good. What intrigues me with Kimi Räikkönen is Trackhouse has kicked ass at the road courses, like I mentioned earlier. So that's going to be one that's real interesting. I think that those guys are going to be in equal equipment with some fun road course experience and wins from both of them, of course, in different series. But that one would be a lot of fun. I agree.
Can we just say Ty Gibbs is a stud, man? That guy is a dog. Like, he is going to be the face of NASCAR in 3 to 5 years. I have no doubt about that.
But sooner than that, I mean, he very well could be in a flagship car for one of NASCAR's flagship teams as soon as next year. Why wait 3 to 5 years,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I have this. Go ahead, Rod.
Oh no, I'm just saying he was giving his grandfather's car a little shove last week, though. If you notice, he was giving grandpa.
Yeah, he's saying, "Hey, Kyle, get the hell out of my car! What are you doing?"
What he was saying, all right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch.
I have this personal vendetta against Ty Gibbs, and not so much anymore because I really respect what he's doing in the short amount of time. But when his first race that he won at the Daytona road course, I had a max play on Daniel Hemrick over Ty Gibbs, and I looked so stupid after that race. And I was like, it's kind of me talking about Kimi Räikkönen. It's like first time jumping in, I'm going to fade him because of that. But I was so upset, and I held that over Ty Gibbs' head for so long. I've kind of moved on from it now. I'll bet on him, and I respect what he's doing. But that's my little tidbit on Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, and don't forget, this isn't Kimi Räikkönen's first time in stock car racing. This is maybe 10, 12 years ago at this point, but he did a few truck races. I think, I don't remember what team he was, maybe Kyle Busch Motorsports in its infancy or something. I don't quite remember, but he's done this before, so it could be interesting.
Guys, I want to round us out here with top 10s, top 5s with one DraftKings special that I'm very interested in, and that is Chevy finishing first and second at plus 180. I think for this to be that good of odds is a little absurd from the books. Maybe they know something I don't. Maybe it is they're playing that chaos factor here. But
I think that they're real heavy on Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson.
Yeah, and Reddick.
Yeah, and like
Reddick, yeah.
This has happened at Road America. This happened at Circuit of the Americas 2 out of 4 times this year at road courses. Chevys have finished first and second. So I think this could absolutely happen. This could hit. And if you want to get spicier too, any manufacturer to finish first, second, and third at plus 330. So I expect Chevys to dominate, whether it's Chastain or Kyle Larson, or Chase Elliott. Those are the guys I'm really targeting this week in DraftKings lineup. So I definitely think I want to be in Chevy on this DraftKings special as well.
I always find myself with these DraftKings weekly specials, I always find myself wanting to take no, and it's never an option.
Okay.
But if we got no on that Chevy to win 1-2, if we got no at minus 250, it's tough for me to say that I would bet it. But like you said, I think that number is a little ambiguous. I think that plus 180 it's not enough for me to bite off and chew. So I'm going to stay away from that. Now, that plus 330 at any manufacturer to hit 1, 2, 3, I think that is a bet that I would entertain, just because I think Rod may have said it. You find these guys that hit a setup, and these teams that hit a setup like JGR at Michigan. They were all feel like they were all up there. But you find the Chevys, for example. It could be Chevy. So why not take the any manufacturer? I guess you got to get the third spot as well. But plus 330 is a little more of my liking.
Yeah, I'd definitely take that if I was to sprinkle, because again, just like Seth said, it'll probably end up being Chevys, and it'll be some combination of maybe Hendrick and Trackhouse or whatever. But yeah, I have a feeling that it's going to be Chevy up there too, just like you, Seth.
Guys, looking at the matchups and groups here, is there anything you're seeing specific? I kind of been staying away from matchups and groups at some of the super speedways. Some of the road courses are a little tougher to predict as well with these matchups. But are there any that are sticking out to you? Mark, I know you already kind of touched on one you liked with Dinger there.
Yeah, I did. I hadn't seen that matchup, Dinger over Harvick, and people that follow me or listen to anything that I'm on, I do like to take bets with no merit and no numbers whatsoever. And so this would be that would be a bet. It's fun to me. And that would be a bet that I would take. I would fade Harvick with Dinger. But one bet, and I want to say this, I typically don't find matchups that I really, really love until the local and the offshore books come out and it's post-practice qualifying. Last week, I loved William Byron over Bubba Wallace. That was a DraftKings line. And this week, I love Chastain over Cindric. Cindric just hasn't shown me enough, and Ross has, right? He went out and won a race. You guys are talking about it. Trackhouse, Chevrolet, always at the front. Fords are hit or miss. Obviously, Austin Cindric is a phenomenal talent. He's a great road course driver. But Ross Chastain, just scrolling through, that really stuck out to me. Chastain over Cindric.
I love that one.
Cindric just has not been that hot lately. Looking at the standings, he's kind of faltered to the point where if we do end up with 17 winners, of course, Kurt Busch is out since he's been out. I think Cindric is the next guy out after that.
Yeah, that's how frustrating it is to go win the first race of the year and then just be out of the playoffs because everybody won. I'll give you one, and this is along the AJ Allmendinger line, and one that I like a lot is AJ Allmendinger to win Group C. He's at plus 200. He's the favorite, but at plus 200, that's still pretty good value. In that group is Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., and Chris Buescher. So I still like Allmendinger to beat all those guys in this race. Martin Truex Jr., we talked about his woes earlier. Yes, Christopher Bell's been good, but Allmendinger is better. And then Chris Buescher. I know, Seth. I know
I'd struggle with that. Yeah, I have to stay away from that one, Rod. But I respect the play on Dinger there.
Yeah, and really that's all it is. Just not an indictment on how bad the rest of them are. It's just how good AJ Allmendinger is on road courses.
Well, I think Dinger has been so close so many times at these road courses here in 2022. If there's someone who could pull it out this week, it could be him. I like him minus 105 over Chase Briscoe. Briscoe, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but average finish at these road courses this season, 20th. Average finish over the last 4 races for him, 21. Last top 10 for Chase Briscoe, guys, Charlotte, all the way back in May. Ooh. So it has not been a kind summer to Chase Briscoe. He did have 1 9th place finish at the Glen in his only start there. So I think that's why the books are considering him, somewhat of a favorite here this week. But I'm going to keep fading Chase Briscoe. He hasn't been great lately, and I'm going to ride the Dinger wave that it seems like we're all on this week.
Yeah, going back to Allmendinger, I mean, I remember 2 races he could have easily won this year at road courses. You go back to Indy road course, you saw those shots of him. His cool helmet didn't work, all that stuff. He was basically dying in that car the last few laps. Maybe he has more for Tyler Reddick in that situation if he's not, dying of heat stroke or whatever. And if Ross Chastain had
in Sonoma, if he had power steering in Sonoma, who knows how he'd have done?
Right,
that's right. Sonoma too, and then Coda, he was used as Ross Chastain's pinball machine to get him.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, so I think we're all riding the Dinger wave here. We can all be unanimous on that. And going back real quick before we transition to the first, second, and third, all the same manufacturers, I think it's Chevy or nothing. We've all kind of been talking down on Ford a little bit. Toyota just doesn't have the numbers. I think if you're going to go with the 1, 2, 3, you may as well bet the Chevy 1, 2 as well, because I think that's the only way it happens. Yep. All right, well, if we are all done with the specifics here, we'll round it out with our back road advice and stories. So our topic for the week, our favorite low-key aspects of the end of summer, early fall time that we're kind of transitioning into. We'll kind of open it up. Whoever wants to start.
Man, I got an easy one. I feel like here. So up in Mark, you're from Florida, so I'm sure it gets super humid down there. Rod, You don't know what humidity is out there in California, but here up in Pennsylvania, man, it really gets humid here late July, early August, to the point where it's not that fun to be outside a lot of the time. But as we transition here into the later part of August, early fall, nothing beats waking up like on an early Saturday morning, college football game day, NFL game day, whatever you got going on, walking outside, throwing that sweatshirt on and cracking a cold beer, boys. A cold beer, it's hitting just right with that 60, high 50, maybe low 70 degree temperature, little humidity in the air. I mean, I prefer a Busch Light apple that early in the morning, but I do not think you can go wrong. Early morning beers, I love it. As we're walking to the Penn State games over here in State College, I'm getting tuned up here early in the morning, but it's a blast, man. There's nothing like that, honestly. I love a lot of different beers. I love shower beers. I love vacation beers. I love Friday beers, but I think I love those early Saturday morning fall beers at the 101, baby.
Can't even fault you for that. I mean, look, I know humidity though. I've been in the South. I lived in Kentucky for a while. I lived in Tennessee for a while, so I know how humidity works. And yes, cold beers on a warm morning, definitely the business. For me, my favorite thing is just the sports that are starting to happen. Like I've got CFL winding down, NFL picking up. Like we're just all that early that. Late summer, early fall, where we're getting to the big mix of CFL and then NFL sprinkles in. Now NASCAR is winding down with the regular season. This is a busy time for sports to be a sports fan. And I love it because for me that ingests all things sports, this is such a sensory overload type of season for me. It's what I enjoy most about the late summer, early fall is just the plethora of sports to enjoy.
Yeah, I hate to just piggyback on this, but I will too. one quick note. So yesterday, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. Yesterday, Monday morning, between 4 and 5 a.m., the average temperature was 64 degrees. And that hasn't happened on that date in August since like the 40s. So I thought that was crazy. I wasn't up early enough to embrace it. It quickly got up to about 95. But yeah, we do get those crisp mornings, late November, December, a little bit January. I do love my Busch Light. I love my football. My thing, I was going to say exactly what Rod said. NASCAR really ramps up into the playoffs. I'm a big Jags fan. He's a big football fan. I played football. I love football since the day I was born. And really fall in general is by far my favorite time of the year. You wake up and you got football on until, you take a nap, you turn the Saturday race on, and then you watch football all night, drinking Busch Light, maybe not the Apple, but definitely Busch Light. And then Sunday, when the Jags are out of town, I'll kick up on the couch and throw on Red Zone. But yeah, I mean, I'm just a sports guy like you guys are. I love all types of sports, but late summer, early fall, definitely when NASCAR and football overlap, that's like a dream for me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm piggybacking off the stuff you guys said too. The sports, you got the NASCAR playoffs, football starting up. You got the MLB playoffs to start to kick in around Halloween. And just the Pennsylvania weather in the fall is great. I'm a man who does enjoy the seasons. There are some times when I hate it when it's 90 out, and I hate it when it's 0 degrees and snowy out. We still get a little bit of all 4 seasons here in Pennsylvania. So that fall weather, got the leaves falling 60 degrees. Like I said, kick it up on the porch with a beer and some football. Can't ask for much better than that,
And I will say, pro tip, as we head into the season where NFL is going to be on, college football, NASCAR, all on at the same time, make sure you guys have some way to consume multiple sports at once, whether that's 2 screens, doing a picture-in-picture. I have 2 TVs mounted. I might have my iPad up on my coffee table too. I'm making sure I'm ready to go because I don't have to make this decision, NASCAR or football. But I absolutely agree, guys. This is just a fantastic time of the year coming our way. And we're going to be here at IBT Media covering it the whole way through it. Rod, you're over there at the Sports Gambling Podcast. You guys got some new stuff coming our way. Rod, why don't you tell us what you have going on? Then, Mark, I'd love to hear what you have over there at Skybox NASCAR as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear DVRs too. Go watch all those series that you've been taping. Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure you do that. I know that I have told the wife, look, we need to catch up. So let's start putting this in. Yeah, you can find me obviously when I'm not on IBT on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network doing the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. In fact, once I hop off here, going to hop on with Cody. We're going to do our show, our betting program. I just got off with Phil. So make sure you listen to Full Tank with Phil. If you're not already, which I'm sure if you're a NASCAR fan, you are. And we just launched an F1 podcast as well. F1 gambling podcast. We're 3 episodes in, got ourselves Darius Butler, one-time Indianapolis Colt, one-time New England Patriot, loves him some F1. Go back, listen to that conversation. That dude is a blast. And he wants to come back and pick with us. So he may be the 3rd member of that crew before too long. So yeah, big stuff happening at SGPN. And of course, follow all my work on the Sportsbook Review, CFL and NASCAR and everything else.
Awesome. Thank you, Rod.
So Seth, before I get into my spiel, I have a question. You're on the couch. You're a Penn State fan, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So hypothetically, Penn State's playing Michigan, maybe, or Ohio State. All right. You're watching it on TV. And NASCAR is at Talladega with 10 to go. Who's got the volume?
NASCAR, 100%. 100%. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There might even have to be a pause in the Penn State game. I'm notorious for pausing stuff, recording it, watching it hours, days later. So, yeah, definitely throwing that pause, that mute on Penn State and ramping up some NASCAR, man. Maybe they'll even get – well, I guess we don't have Fox anymore. But I was going to say maybe they'll turn it up for me as well.
Oh, man, me and my buddies always play that hypothetical. We're like, all right, this team in that sport, what's the volume on? But so I had to throw that question in there. But, yeah, Skybox NASCAR, only on Twitter. That's where you could best support me. I tweet some dumb stuff sometimes. I like to have fun with all this. I hope I'm a good follow. I like to have a good time. And actually, I'm going to have my own podcast with Rory Picks. coming out. I don't know if it's going to be this week or next week, but I'm joining the trend, and I'm going to figure out how to edit all this stuff, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. Maybe I'll take some notes from you guys, but I appreciate you guys having me. This was a lot of fun.
Heck yeah, man. You've always got a spot here. This was a lot of fun. Some more with the hypotheticals there. What if that Penn State game is, tied up fourth quarter? I mean, Seth, at this point, you're pretty notorious with pause and stuff. I don't understand how you can be sitting there. The race is over, and I have to check with you to see what lap you're on before we can talk about the result.
I literally get messages I get messages all day, Sunday, Saturday, whichever the day the race is. Hey, bud, you finished that race? Yeah, I've gotten them from you, Elliot. I've gotten them from my uncle, my cousins. Everyone wants to talk NASCAR with me. I'm like, no. I'll be, I'm 20, 30, 40 laps behind live, whatever it is. But it happens, man. That's why I'm saying dual screens. You got to have those dual screens. But, don't be afraid to pause things. Don't be afraid to pause things. It's okay.
This thing it's our worst enemy.
Exactly. I get 18 notifications. This great thing happens. And
yes. Got to stay off Twitter, man. But Skybox, Rod, Elliot, this was an absolute blast. For more of us here in between media guys, fantasy football season is ramping up. We have our weekly in between fantasy football podcast for you now coming your way on Wednesdays. We're going to be live tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. So come check out preseason, what's going on with Zach Wilson, what's going on with the possible bad knee, possible time in his mother's friend's bed. We're going to talk about all of that over at IBT Media, guys. That's kind of what we do there. But guys, it's been an absolute blast. Make sure you're following Skybox. Great NASCAR content over there. I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. If you're new to the show, please hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back here in 2 weeks. We're going to rank these drivers as they head into the postseason. But until then, Elliot, take it away, man.
Yeah, and I will really emphasize that pro tip before we go. Growing up, late 2000s, early 2010s, there was no streaming, and we only had one TV in the house with cable. And my mom being a big Steelers fan as well, it didn't matter what the NASCAR race was. If the Steelers were on, you'd have to catch up on NASCAR some other time. Thankful for our multi-screens and streaming. But all right, this has been fun. We'll catch you again in 2 weeks here on the Back Road.